Apotheosis Chapter 33. With a gentle push from him, the throwing knife suddenly shot out and quickly sank into the back of the demon. What was even more strange was that the thick body of the demon was like air at this moment. The flying dagger shot in and pierced through the demon's chest, breaking open the demon's head, and then flew 5 or 6 meters into the sky. After its strength was exhausted, it fell to the ground. At this moment, Luo Zheng was so shocked that he was speechless. There were only 2 possibilities to achieve this effect. First, his strength was so great that the flying dagger could easily pierce through the devil race with his strength. This was obviously impossible. The second possibility was that this broken throwing knife was incomparably sharp and could easily penetrate the demon with only a small amount of strength. In front of Luo Zheng's eyes, there was only the second possibility. What level of treasure was this throwing knife? Luo Zheng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The mountain-like demon clutched its chest and staggered a few steps. Finally, it hugged its head and turned into thousands of light spots. The only level 5 phantom beast on the 5th floor was killed by Luo Zheng. Ding ding. A pure black crystal fragment fell to the ground and bounced into Luo Zheng's hand. Only 1 black crystal fragment was needed to pass the test. Who was the idiot who designed this rule? Luo Zheng picked up the black crystal fragment and couldn't help but curse in his heart that the person who designed this array had no asshole. This demon was so powerful that he would rather kill 100 level 3 phantom beasts than provoke this level 5 phantom beast. Luo Zheng already had enough crystal fragments. Compared to this black crystal fragment, he was more concerned about his throwing knife. He got up with difficulty and walked 2 steps. However, he couldn't find the throwing knife on the ground. If he hadn't seen the power of this throwing knife, he would have let it go. However, now that he found out that this throwing knife was absolutely a super treasure, he couldn't lose it. How could it be missing? Luo Zheng searched back and forth several times and finally found a small hole in the ground. Oh no! This throwing knife was so sharp that even the demon's body couldn't stop it. Now that it had fallen, he was afraid that it had pierced deeply into the ground. He used his strength to dig the ground bit by bit. After digging for 2 to 3 meters, he still couldn't find the throwing knife. At this moment, the scenery around Luo Zheng suddenly changed color, emitting a little bit of light. The entire illusion was slowly collapsing. Seeing this scene, Luo Zheng's complexion changed. This was bad. The trial of blood should be over, and the illusion should be extinguished. The place where Luo Zheng was at had also changed its appearance. He was now in a blood-red forest. The surrounding land and plants were all blood-red. This was the true appearance of the bloody mountain. As for the place where Luo Zheng had dug, it had also disappeared. This is my flying knife. Luo Zheng wanted to cry but had no tears. Because the illusory array had been dispelled, his previous injuries had also been completely healed. Those injuries were actually illusions created by the illusory array. Now, he had a lot of strength to dig them out. But in such a big bloody mountain, who knew where the throwing knife had moved to? If he wanted to find the throwing knife, would he have to turn the entire bloody mountain upside down? At this moment, a flying chariot flew over from the horizon and stopped beside her. An examiner jumped down and invited Luo Zheng onto the flying chariot. At this moment, the various mentors were still discussing spiritedly. However, the focus of their discussion was no longer Luo Zheng, but the other trial disciples and landowning households who had similarly performed well. Although they didn't see Luo Zheng's final result, presumably, his elimination was already set in stone. Although they were looking forward to Luo Zheng's performance when he applied for the Blue Cloud sect next time, at least for this month, there was no need to pay attention to him. However, when Luo Zheng got down from the flying chariot, he unexpectedly walked over and asked, "Excuse me, who should I give these crystal fragments to?" "Over here." A yellow-robed woman gestured towards Luo Zheng. She was in charge of counting the crystal fragments obtained by the trial disciples. In front of her were 4 baskets of different colors, each containing crystal fragments of different colors. At this moment, the mentors' faces were filled with astonishment. At the same time, they were also somewhat confused. According to the rules of the trial of blood, Luo Zheng had already been eliminated. Then, even if he obtained more crystal fragments, it would be useless. After all, being eliminated in the illusory array meant death. If he was already dead, What qualifications did he have to pass the trial of blood? Of course, Zhong Ming also noticed Luo Zheng. Just now, he had used the illusory array disc to release the 5th-level illusory beast. After locking onto Luo Zheng as his target, he was afraid of arousing suspicion, so he didn't dare to touch the illusory array disc again. Now that he saw Luo Zheng come down the mountain, he was somewhat pleased. He had already passed the trial of blood, but in the end, he was eliminated. This guy must be feeling very pained right now, right? Now, it seemed that Luo Zheng still didn't understand the situation. He actually still wanted to hand over the crystal fragments. He felt that he needed to explain the rules of the trial of blood to Luo Zheng. He needed to tell him that he was already a dead person. Even if he had 1,000 or 10,000 crystal fragments, it would be useless. He had just taken 2 steps towards Luo Zheng when his legs seemed to be welded to the ground. He saw Luo Zheng carelessly throw out a black crystal fragment. In Zhong Ming's eyes, that black crystal fragment was very dazzling. That yellow-robed woman blinked her eyes and asked strangely, why is there a black crystal fragment? Ever since she had been in charge of counting, she had only placed the baskets of 4 colors. She didn't know that there would be a black crystal fragment. When she said this in surprise, everyone immediately understood what was going on. That demon illusory beast had been killed by Luo Zheng. This black crystal fragment was naturally dropped by the demon illusory beast. The scene suddenly became silent. This illusory beast was designed to be here. It simply didn't consider that someone would kill it. But now, the black crystal fragment was thrown on the table by Luo Zheng. That black light seemed very mysterious, and even had a touch of enticement. Why is there a black crystal fragment? The yellow-robed woman was somewhat puzzled by the reaction of the surrounding people. She raised her voice and asked. She suspected that Luo Zheng had cheated and wanted to use this black crystal fragment to make up the numbers. At this time, an elegant-looking middle-aged man came out and said, "There is a black crystal fragment, and there is only one. Since the beginning of the Blood-Red Mountains illusory array, no one has obtained it. Xiaoshi, you are in charge of counting, so naturally you haven't seen it." The yellow-robed woman surnamed Shi suddenly understood and nodded, "So it's like this." That elegant-looking middle-aged man came in front of Luo Zheng and said, "Young man, your performance in this trial of blood was too outstanding. I am Teacher Zhou of the Raging Waves Peak. I very much welcome you to join our Raging Waves Peak. What's so good about the Raging Waves Peak? You are ranked outside the top 20 of the 33 peaks. If you want to come, then come to our Huanling Peak. Our Huanling Peak is ranked 5th among the 33 peaks. All of our benefits and treatment are not something that their Raging Waves Peak can compare with." A Baldy rushed out again. His words were practically roaring. "Baldy Jiang, what do you mean by this? Are you saying that my Raging Waves Peak is inferior to your Huanling Peak? This ranking changes every year. 10 years ago, our Raging Waves Peak was firmly ranked in the top 3. In terms of background, your Huanling Peak isn't even worthy to carry our Raging Waves Peak's shoes." Teacher Zhou heard the Baldy's evaluation of his Raging Waves Peak and immediately said angrily. Teacher Jiang wanted to retort, but another teacher interjected. It was Teacher Su of the Lone Sky Peak. Luo Zheng remembered that Luo Peiran and that Wang Heng were at the Lone Sky Peak. After Teacher Su stood still, he slowly said, "Our Lone Sky Peak is the leader of the 33 peaks. We have always been ranked first. I hope that you can join our Lone Sky Peak." Facing Teacher Su's invitation, Luo Zheng declined to comment. No matter where he went, he wouldn't choose the Lone Sky Peak. It wasn't that he had any prejudice against Teacher Su, but he simply loathed everything related to Luo Peiran. Luo Zheng isn't going anywhere. He will come to my Xiao Yufeng. That clear and melodious voice finally sounded. Su Lingyun felt that she couldn't sit still anymore. She was the first one to discover Luo Zheng. What were these stinking fellows doing here? When the various teachers heard Su Lingyun's words, their eyes flickered with fear. Although this Su Lingyun was only a teacher, if they were to be serious, these people would still have to respectfully kneel down and call her Your Highness. Fear was fear, but these teachers were also people who were shrewd. They could give in on other matters, but to make them give in on this matter was definitely a difficult matter. Teacher Su, what you said is wrong. Last time, there were 2 excellent trial disciples who were chosen by you. No one fought with you. But this time, you want to take them away again. Our other 32 peaks might as well not choose disciples in the future. We'll wait for your Xiao Yufeng to pick up the leftovers, then we'll choose, Teacher Su said without changing his expression. That's right, Teacher Su. We can't always be like this. Moreover, your Xiao Yufeng is the peak ranked last. The various teachers echoed one after another. Originally, everyone was already very dissatisfied with Su Lingyun's tyrannical way of picking disciples. This time, she wanted to take away Luo Zheng. Those teachers finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Under Teacher Su's lead, they all started to crusade against Su Lingyun. Facing these teachers' words, Su Lingyun suddenly waved her hand. Stop, stop. Don't say any more. Only then did the various teachers shut up. Of course, they didn't dare to really anger Teacher Su. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to mingle in the Blue Cloud sect anymore. Su Lingyun sighed and said, all right then. We'll follow the normal rules. First, we'll tally up all the disciples who passed the trial of blood and fire according to their rankings and their own wishes. That should be fine, right? When Su Lingyun said this, the other teachers immediately let out a sigh of relief. Of course, they nodded in agreement. However, these teachers had forgotten Su Lingyun's personality. With her personality, since young, there was no possibility that the things she wanted would be taken by others. The reason why she was willing to make this concession now was because she had already thought of other methods.